Walter, I'm going to make a short video. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but maybe it's going to be Hindsight is 2020 or I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this this new vise that I made, and I just take some of these points and think about it whenever you get ready to maybe make a vise for your shaper. So that's why I'm going to make the video. So anyway, as you know, I made a vise much different than the original vise. Actually, in the forefront you can see the original vise that I made, which actually works quite well. But the holding, the height of the jaw is rather low, which it needs to be. But so I wanted to make something that's got a little bit more holding height, I guess, and width also. So as you know, I cheaped out on buying the material. So I bought a 12-inch length which I could cut in half, which gave me two 6-inch jaws. And actually I'm going to tell you the reason why I should have actually added a few more inches to what I bought. Instead of buying a 12-inch piece, I could have purchased an 18-inch piece for a few dollars more, maybe $8 more, and probably the shipping would have been the same from Speedy. So and it wouldn't have cost me any more time and effort to construct the vise. I would have still had to go through all the steps. I had to mill away a lot of material, but I don't think it would have made much difference. A little extra length wouldn't have hurt anything. But anyway, this is going to work. But that said, I'm going to tell you why. A couple things that I realized after doing so. First of all, you know, I didn't have a vise in mind when I laid out the design for the base of the shaper and the T-slots. So consequently, the T-slots could have been laid out a lot differently, or a little bit differently anyway. That would have helped with the vise, actually. And I'm going to tell you what those things are. The first thing is the T-slot could have been a little bit longer. These T-slots running in this direction could have gone almost all the way to the base of the cross slide. And why I did that, I don't know. I'm not sure. This base did end up to be a little bit longer than what should have been for a scaled down version, because the material was 12 inches and the scaled down version would have been 11. So maybe that's why I ended up with this space in here. But it doesn't let me mount the vise close enough to the cross slide. Would have been better had it been closer, let me put it that way. Now I can use, for the front jaw of the vise, I can use the base of the cross slide. So it's not the end of the world, right? But I still think these slots could have been longer. The other thing is, excuse me, I made these slots 4 inches on center, and therefore the vise holes in this rear jaw are 4 inches on center, so I can mount the vise. But when I scaled it down, these slots ended up to be 3 inches on center. And what I should have done was make these longitudinal slots longer and make these also 4 inches on center. What I did is I added an extra hole in this vise, which solved that problem. And I'm not sure whether you can see it in the viewer or not, but let me see if that let me take a look at the viewer. In fact, let me turn the viewer around so I can see. Well, here. So no, I didn't. So let me zoom out just a little bit. You can see. I don't know if you can see, but I added oh shoot! Just hit the camera. I added extra holes in this vise too to accommodate that situation. So I can turn the vise this way or this way, whatever I want, and you know, so that solved the problem for both vices. But it would have been better had these slots been 4 inches apart like these are, and that these slots had extended further toward the base of the cross slide. So the other thing I realized that the T-nuts I made, they hit the end of the slots. Now I can solve some of that problem by making a couple special short T-nuts to go up here. I could probably gain a ½ inch maybe in this direction, so that's not the end of the world. Anyway, all in all, this vise is working just peachy keen. I don't have any problems. I did realize that also these T-nuts and bolts and nuts, these things need to be pretty tight, because this, unlike a milling machine, there's a lot of force against the work. So you can actually move the vise. And the other problem that I had that would have been better, had this vise been just 1 inch longer, I would have had more room to put these adjustment screws for the movable jaws. I could have moved them each out at ½ inch. So right now, in order to loosen the vise, at least this back jaw, I need to take these 2 adjustment screws out so I can get a wrench on here. So that's just an inconvenience, but had this vise been 1 inch longer, I wouldn't have had that problem. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Another thing that I realized, right now I've got a 2-inch piece of steel in here. And this vise holds it quite securely. It's amazing how little force it takes. But that said, these nuts need to be pretty tight. So none of this can move when you start tightening this up, because when you start tightening this up, these have a lot of force. They'll actually move this jaw and these T-nuts. Now in this case they can't, because the T-nuts are all the way against the back of the T-slots, but if they weren't, it would. So that's something else to keep in mind. And you know, let me move this down here, and I'm not taking a big cut here, but you know, it cuts that quite nicely. No problem. I got a shear tool bit in there, so it's set at about, I don't know, 25 or 30 degrees, and it's just shearing off about 5/1000ths on each cut. So that's working fine. Another thing I realized, because I wanted to be able to mount larger pieces in here. So this is 2 inches high, which works quite nicely, actually. But if you look at what I'm doing here, you'll see that the ram is about 1/4 inch from the top of this piece. So that limits my height, period. So unless I put some precision spacers underneath the cross slide to bring the whole unit up, then I can get more height. But with the way it is now, I'm limited on height. So I can actually get a little bit higher. This is a piece of cast iron here, and this is about 2 3/8 or 2 1/4 high. Let me see. Yeah, 2 1/4 high, and this just clears. This does clear, but I tried to. When I realized what was happening, I turned this piece on in to try to cut this side, and of course it was too high. The ram hits it. So anyway, that's another thing I wanted to point out. So, But other than that, everything's working fine. I'm satisfied with the vise. I'm not happy with the situation with the adjustment screws, but it is just an inconvenience. It's very simple to deal with, so I'm not totally upset, but I could have done better. So anyway, that's where I'm at. This vise does mount in both positions. It mounts this way and this way, and that works no problem. But the other thing is, when you turn it in the other opposite direction, I'm not sure about holding the piece in there. In this direction, the force is against the jaw and nothing bad can happen. In the other direction, I'm not sure there's enough force to hold the piece in there with any kind of a cut at all, because you're going to move it. I'm not sure you can clamp it tight enough. Like a shaper, I mean like a milling machine, I think there's a lot of force in the lateral directions, but there's also a lot of force in the down direction. But in this case, the force against here, of course, this is a light cut, so it'd probably do this with the vise mounted in the other direction with no problem. But otherwise, you know, I tried it and it didn't hold. So I'll work on that some more and see what I can come up with. But anyway, those are a couple things to keep in mind. The other thing is that I put some oil and grease on this thing today, and also I've been fooling around with these adjustments, which I guess there's 9 different ways you can adjust this, because there's 3 holes in the ram, 3 holes in the arm. But and that's it. You know, it's becoming important to be able to make those adjustments now, as I'm trying to reach further with the ram. But one thing I realized that in doing so, that when you go back, and you know, in this case maybe not so much, because I don't think I can go back far enough, but when you go back, what happens is, depending on where these are adjusted, the cutter will make its way up onto the carriage bed, and then you're locked in. You can't move it forward. So, and it wouldn't be good to dig a hole in the carriage bed either. So anyway, it's not happening now because of the position that I have these in, but it happened earlier when I had it in a different position. So something else to keep in mind. Anyway, I just wanted to make a 5-minute video to let you know what's going on. And but I'm happy with the vise. You know, I'm not unhappy with that. It's okay. Let me kind of maybe zoom in on the vise a little bit. You can see it there. That's a little bit better. But you can see, if you and it holds quite securely. And these are just 1/4-inch screws here. That's all they are. I was going to use 5/16, but you got to take this all the way out in order to loosen the nut. I can't get a socket on there either. I tried. So that's not particularly a good deal. It's just not hard to take these out. You know, that's quite simple, but you know, I wouldn't have had to do that. And I got these pretty tight because I realized they need to be. Okay, let me move these over here. So that's that. Right now, let me zoom back out a little bit. Right now I've left this piece kind of thick, and I haven't done anything to it. Although I did booger up both sides of it, I see. Didn't hurt anything, but I was going to put some little indentations in here, maybe. Maybe I was going to put a guide pin on here, a guide dowel or something, but maybe that's not necessary either. Maybe this just needs to be loose. I mean, I don't know. Something to think about. Also, these, I got a socket on for these. Can take, I think, you know, I didn't try it, but I think, you know, this, we can take this back jaw off here and take these T-nuts out of here. I don't know, I can't, I gotta take this off in order to do that. Then I suppose, let me get a brush here and clean these out. I hadn't thought about this video, so it's just kind of open-ended, I guess. I don't have any particular thing. I just wanted to tell you about some problems I ran into. So this thing can slide up here. I guess, you know, I can just use a 1, 2, 3 block. I'm not sure if this face is perfect, but I can make it perfect if I want to. And let's see. Go back up above the 1, 2, 3 block. Put that in there, I guess. That, let's see, that should be higher than this. Yeah, it is. So that's higher than that. So let's see here. If I put that up against there, not sure what I'm doing here. Never tried this. This is the first, so bear with me. Okay. Now I can put these screws back in here. Now this, I checked this piece and it just barely clears the ram right now. So, not sure what I'm doing here. It doesn't look like I got this thing exactly straight, but yeah, see, I think I'm moving this. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure why this thing, it may not be tight enough. It's pretty hard to fool with once you get those adjustment screws in there. I don't know how this is going to work. I have no idea. It may be a little bit high here still. There we go, we're cutting there. Maybe a little bit too much. You can see that the ram clears, right? But to get any higher than that, you're going to have to raise the the whole cross light up. So also I can see that probably seemed like this cut was pretty symmetrical before. Well, a little hard to tell, but I'm not sure that this situation is great either, because I'm not sure if this all sits down on here like it should. Maybe it does. Anyway, that's a possibility, I guess, to do that. But this is the maximum height. So I tried to put, that's how I discovered, I tried to put this in there on end like that, and that was, I could see it, as soon as I did that, the ram would hit it, run right into it. So that didn't work. Oh, looky here, see now this cutter's going up onto here. Now right now it's okay, it's clearing, but any lower than that and it would lift this up and then it would gouge in. So that's another thing to kind of watch out for. Okay, that's it. I don't want to make this too long. I just wanted to point out a couple difficulties or things that I realized after making this little vise. So hindsight's 20/20, I guess. So can't always figure everything out. Sometimes you have to learn by doing. That seems to be the story of my life. So, but all in all, I think it worked out okay, and I'm satisfied with it. So I'll call off now and post this video so you can see what's going on. And talk to you later.